first thing that comes to mind when I think of angels is the good guys, the glowing humans with giant white wings that are there to make the world a better place. But as it turns out, many angels are not as innocent as they may seem. Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. My name is Kennedy, and today we are going to be soaring up into the heavens and counting down the top 10 angels in history scarier than the devil. Let's go. Starting us off at number 10, we have Cherubim. So, you know those adorable little chubby babies you see floating around in old Renaissance paintings? Those are cherubs, right? Apparently wrong. It seems like old painters took some creative licensing and decided to draw a much cuter and watered down version of what we actually see in the Bible. Instead of little cupids in the Bible, cherubim are described as being human-like, but with some rather disturbing adjustments. For starters, they are said to have 4 faces. On the front is the face of a human, on the right side the face of a lion, on the left the face of an ox, and the fourth face was that of an eagle. But it only gets weirder. They have human legs, but the feet of a calf. Oh, and the wings. Yes, they have wings, but apparently 2 pairs. One spreading out and upward, the other covering its body, which is apparently also on fire. So yeah, they looked just like people, except they were quadrilateral, had cloven feet, a bunch of animal faces, and were also on fire. I'm just saying, if I ran into this creature, there is no way I'm jumping to the conclusion of an angel. I guess that's why they always tell you not to be afraid, because they look like a living nightmare. Moving on to number 9, Azrael, aka the Grim Reaper. Azrael is the angel that comes and welcomes you to the afterlife when your time has come. Now, you might assume that the scariest part about this angel is that he only shows up when you are about to die, but have you ever wondered why he's always in that long black cloak? Why it is that we never really see what he looks like? That, as it turns out, is by design. This angel refuses to show its true form because it's said just seeing him can drive demons and lower ranking angels to insanity. And if a human sees him, they will instantly die. But don't feel too left out, because according to the Islamic Book of Dead, Azrael has as many tongues and eyes as there are people on the planet, as well as 4,000 wings. I mean, just take a minute and really try to picture an entity made entirely out of tongues, eyeballs, and wings. It sounds like something out of a horror movie about an evil scientist. Next up at number 8, Seraphim. Usually when I think of snakes, the first thing that comes to mind is Satan, but apparently there are terrifying angels called Seraphim that are, I kid you not, flying serpents who hover above God's throne and sing in devotion to him. Each is said to have 6 wings, but only use 2 to fly and use the other 4 to cover up their feet and faces so as to show modesty before the Lord. Yes, as if a flying snake with 6 wings wasn't a terrifying enough image for you, let me just repeat that they have feet. Oh, and they are also on fire. Apparently a theme here. Now, to be clear, obviously they are angels, so their being on fire is not the same as a demon being on fire, and the implication is that these angels burn with love for God. But burning with love or not, if I was to see a flying and flaming serpent with 6 wings and feet, I would be pretty freaked out. Moving on to number 7, Ophanim. So remember a few points back when I was talking about cherubs and how they're not anything like what we have been told in popular depictions? Well, it actually gets a little crazier. In Ezekiel's version, the cherub doesn't come alone. They have a little buddy that tags along known as Ophanim. Now, these angels are said to be very wise, known as an angel of knowledge, and are meant to guide human beings on the right path by providing them knowledge and wisdom and helping them to apply this knowledge in the practical world. Which, that part sounds great. But these all-knowing beings are described as being interlocking floating gold wheels with a set of eyes covering the outside part. Oh, and of course, they are also on fire. Now, I don't know about you, but flaming wheels in the sky covered in hundreds of eyes, watching the world's every move to make sure that everything lines up with God's will, is not something that I would like to be face to face with. Plus, if they see something unholy or deemed against God's will, well, they will likely have no problem eliminating it entirely. Moving on to number 6, Samael. The archangel Samael, who is seen as the accuser, adversary, seducer, and destroyer, can often be associated with Satan or a fallen angel, but he's not necessarily evil, since his functions are also regarded as resulting in good, such as destroying sinners. That being said, in the story of the Garden of Eden, it was Samael who engineered the fall of Adam and Eve with a snake, and this is a little Easter egg for later, but according to the book of Enoch, he is one of the Watchers who descended to Earth and essentially ruined everything. And if that wasn't terrifying enough, he's known to seduce people into acts of evil, causing them to sin so he can destroy them. So, like, maybe not the greatest of all angels, you know? Moving on to number 5, Kushiel. In Judeo-Christian folklore, the angel Kushiel, meaning rigid one of God, is one of the 7 angels of punishment and resides in hell, punishing the damned souls. Now, maybe I'm just a doofus, but I was under the impression that it was mostly demons doing the punishing in hell. Apparently not. According to scripture, Satan and his demons are inmates in hell, not its wardens or guards, and it's actually angels that do the punishment. So with that knowledge, as a presiding angel of hell, Kushiel is said to punish massive groups of people, like empires or countries, and to do so uses a whip made of fire, and it's said that each lashing brought on by the whip represents a collective sin committed by a large group of people, like war or genocide. Not to mention, with a name meaning the rigid one, I don't think he will be the one to let anyone off the hook. Which, to be clear, when his purpose is to punish groups of people who committed atrocities, it's not a bad thing, but it's still terrifying. Moving on to number 4, Trumpeting Angels. In the book of Revelation, 7 trumpets are sounded, each by an angel, and with each trumpet that sounds, a new apocalyptic event begins. If that sounds terrifying to you, that's because it is. Upon the sound of the first trumpet, hail and fire mingled with blood is thrown to earth, burning up a third of the trees on the planet and all green grass. With the sounding of the second trumpet, something described as a great mountain burning with fire plunges into the sea and turns a third of the oceans to blood. Next, with the sound of a third, all of the sea life and a third of all the ships will be destroyed, and a great star called wormwood falls to the earth, poisoning a third of the planet's fresh water. After the fourth, a third of the light that shines from the sun, moon, and stars becomes dark. Following the fifth, a personified star falls from heaven and opens a bottomless pit that allows smoke to rise out of the pit and block the sunlight, which apparently lets out swarms of scorpion-tailed warhorses and locusts that have been commanded to torment anyone who does not have the seal of God on their forehead. When the 6th trumpet sounds, 4 angels command a force of 200 million mounted troops whose horses exude plagues of fire, smoke, and brimstone from their mouth that will kill a third of mankind. And finally, when the 7th trumpet sounds, loud voices in heaven will say, "The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and his Messiah, and he will reign forever and ever." I mean, if that's not terrifying, I don't know what is. Moving on to number 3, Abbadon. What's interesting about this next one is that there is actually some debate around who Abbadon truly sides with. Described as a destroyer or angel of abyss, some say he's an antichrist or follower of Satan, but in a lot of literature he's seen more as a king sent from God. Generally depicted as a frightening winged creature, Abbadon is said to rule over a bottomless pit filled with an army of locusts who can torment anyone at his command. Which, if we just rewind a second, remember those scorpion-tailed warhorses and locusts that were commanded to torment anyone who does not have the seal of God on their forehead? Yeah, so this angel is the guy who commanded them to do all that. Plus, it's said during Judgment Day he will gather the souls of the damned and carry them down to the place of God's final judgment. So honestly, whether he is a fallen angel or a demon, it doesn't matter to me, because he sounds terrifying no matter what. Moving on to number 2, Moloch. Since the medieval days, the bull-headed minotaur Moloch has been a widely feared entity that anyone with their head screwed on straight would want nothing to do with. But while he's often depicted as a demon, he's actually a fallen angel who joined Lucifer in the revolt against God. And oh boy, is he terrifying. The main reason is that Moloch was known to enjoy the young offspring of humans, and it's been suggested that those that viewed him as a deity would actually sacrifice their family members for him. In the book of Leviticus, it's mentioned that anyone who offered to give up their offspring to him would be stoned to death for their sins. To be fair, he is a fallen angel that feasts on the flesh of little ones, so I mean, that checks out for me. If people were really throwing their own flesh and blood into pits of fire in order to please what they believed to be their god, let's just call that a fair consequence for their insane actions. So yeah, a super scary dude. And last up in our number 1 spot, the Watchers. Okay, so as I hinted at previously, according to the book of Enoch, the Watchers were a group of angels who, as their name would imply, were dispatched to Earth by God to watch over humans. Seems like a pretty straightforward job, right? Apparently wrong. These angels quickly became enamored watching the human women, beginning to lust after them, and soon they disobeyed the order of God and began, well, being fruitful, to put it biblically. However, as one might have been able to predict, the offspring of a celestial being and a human was not exactly a sweet little creature, but rather terrifying, bloodthirsty giants called Nephilim. These giants quickly seized control of Earth, forcing the humans to produce food for them, and unfortunately, due to the Watchers' overactive lust for the humans, the population of giants quickly spiraled out of control and the food ran out. So what did these giants begin doing? They started eating the humans and even each other. Just think, all of this could have been avoided if the Watchers weren't so pressed to have their way with the humans. Due to this crazy turn of events, God eventually chimed in to put his angels in a timeout, and his solution to the absolute anarchist bloodbath that the Watchers had brought upon Earth was to create a giant flood. He was pretty much like, you have messed this up so badly, let's just start from scratch. And as for the Watchers, they were imprisoned and forced to watch as their large sons either killed each other or drowned in the flood. So yeah, as a human woman, these guys would be my worst nightmare. Plus, they also ended the world. Well, that's all I got for you today, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I sincerely hope that none of us are ever forced to see any of these terrifying angels, especially the ones made entirely of eyeballs. Let me know down below which one you think was the most terrifying, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your way out. I'll see ya!